His fingers are off, but it should be.
All right, today we're going to talk about the overhead press. We've been talking about the big 6 compound movements. Push-pull with your legs, that's a squat deadlift. Push-pull in this direction, that's a row and a bench press. And then again, push-pull up vertically. That's an overhead press, what we're going to focus on today, and then a pull down, which we've already talked about. So I've got Tyler Kleinhuizen with me today. Unbelievable strongman, competitor, power lifter. He's going to demonstrate this. He also runs a gym in Minnesota called Evo Ultra Performance, which works with electricity and electrical stimulation. So we're going to have to do an episode on that. It's really cool stuff. It's really powerful stuff. But today, overhead press. Good, so the overhead press I think is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. People do it naturally pretty well. You don't see a lot of egregious errors. I guess, you don't want to be arching your back a lot and trying to get underneath the weight. But, like tell me some of the stuff that you
Sure.
think about and that you teach when you start learning the overhead press.
So first is your start position. You naturally should try to stick with chin height being the lowest. Essentially, if we sink down below chin height, we can tend to lose our angles and lose our shoulder position. So I always preach shoulder blades stay pinned to your back, and that'll keep chin height will be a good start. And then when you're pressing upwards, you want to end up with the bar right above your ear. So you don't want to press out in front of yourself. You want to press up on top of your body, and then obviously your head's going to get out of the way if you're bringing it back down. Aside from that, what we really want to avoid is we don't want to arch our back. So feeling like a cue, like feel your feet go deep into the floor, will keep things active enough through your pelvis to then allow this to happen properly. Whereas if people are only thinking about the upper body, they'll tend to arch, and then you'll get some compression in the lumbar. But like you said, pretty straightforward. I think if you use those 2 height cues, that's a good thing. The other thing that I see people doing is, again, too wide, too narrow. My opinion on these matters is I want my forearms to be parallel to each other. So that's going to set me up off the bat in approximately shoulder width or an inch outside type grip, so that when I'm up at the top, I'm not angled outward, I'm not angled inward. I can move in parallel plane the entire time.
Good. It's an easy one, guys. Don't overthink it. I have been told that if you keep your feet together, like completely together, it tightens your glutes. It keeps a lot of things tight. If you try that, sometimes that works. You can feel the difference if you keep your feet together, but then of course you have a balance issue. Some people might not be able to handle that, but it does help to keep, I think in most compound movements, you want tightness throughout your whole body. You don't want part of your body to just be chilling while everything else is doing, the movement. So, you don't have to keep your feet together, but I think you do have to maintain that rigidity, that strength. Mm-hmm. Just not let your lower body just shut off or stay loose.
Sure. And again, in the way that I teach people things is we want to do the same rep every single time. So when I pull the bar from the top to the bottom position, treat it like a pull-up. Treat it like a row where you're actively pulling it to a set position. We want to do the same rep every time so you can get proper activation, and me doing that active pulling motion will actually cue my body to go into that biomechanically advantageous position.
Yeah, I think as always, the shoulders are where people, are most vulnerable on a lot of these positions, because we sit so much, we tend to hunch our shoulders forward. You got to keep them back. And the pelvis is the other big thing. A lot of people have their pelvis tilted way forward, just imagine a 5-gallon bucket of water or something. If that's your pelvic floor, we're tipping our pelvic forward, dumping our gut out over our toes or something. You got to pull that back in. You got to use your glutes, use your butt, tighten it up, pull it back in, make sure that's square, make sure that's straight, not dumping water out, or you're going to hurt your low back. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one cue that people remember it is of whatever my hips do, my shoulders have to make up for. So if I'm sitting and my hips are forward, then my shoulders are going to round and I'm going to arch my back. If I'm sitting and my hips are tipped backward, shoulders are going to round and I'm going to arch my neck. So there's many different things, but whatever my pelvis does, my shoulders have to deal with. So figure them both out and keep them in line.